Millions of years ago, Lucifer tried to rebel against God but was swiftly punished. He was thrown out of heaven and chained by Archangel Michael to a huge rock, with Michael's own sword sealing him there. Despite this, Lucifer vowed to return as powerful as God. Over centuries, he gathered demons to help plan his revenge. His followers built a mansion around the crevice where he fell, waiting for his prophesied comeback. Fast forward to 2022. Laura, an art historian studying in Italy, explores a controversial thesis. She argues that despite Italian artists depicting angels and demons, they didn't truly believe in them. Her professor disagrees, defending Italy's cultural history and making unwanted advances during a private talk. Uncomfortable, Laura leaves. Seeking comfort with Father Marconi, Laura gets a special pass to explore his cathedral's exhibits. She sees the Shroud of Turin, believed to bear Jesus' blood from the crucifixion. After viewing it, she discusses the concept of evil with Father Marconi. He leaves her alone to sketch a statue showing Michael defeating Lucifer. In the quiet cathedral, Laura sketches, feeling as though someone whispers her name. She dismisses it as imagination. As closing time approaches, a raven lands at the cathedral's entrance, transforming into Liz. She sneaks through a forbidden door, caught on security cameras by a watchful guard. Liz quietly moved through the corridor lined with statues, observing Laura sketching from afar. Suddenly, she noticed the head of Lucifer on one statue shift. Sensing something amiss, Laura checked her surroundings and was startled by a raven at the window. As Laura was distracted by the bird, Liz seized the opportunity to steal Michael's sword from the statue and slip away. At that moment, a guard mistook Laura for the hooded figure who had strayed from the group. Laura, however, proved she had legitimate access to the area. The guard, after reminding Laura about closing time, left, believing it was a simple misunderstanding. Laura gathered her belongings and noticed Michael's hand, briefly mistaking it for something else. Unable to exit through the locked front door, Laura searched for another way out. When she returned to the corridor, she witnessed Liz fatally attacking the guard with Michael's sword and decapitating him. Shocked and terrified, Laura sought refuge in a confessional booth. From there, she watched as Liz used the guard's eyes to deactivate alarms and then shattered the protective glass around the shroud to steal it. Marconi, alerted by the commotion, confronted Liz, but was stabbed before Liz's accomplices intervened to secure the stolen shroud. Spotting Laura in the booth, Liz ordered her associates to capture her. After they departed with Laura, Marconi used his final moments to pray, invoking Michael to intervene and thwart Lucifer. In response, Michael swiftly descended and inhabited Marconi's body, giving chase to Liz's group as they fled in a car. His angelic speed was formidable, but the human vessel struggled to contain such power, prompting Michael to pause briefly to prevent further strain on Marconi's body. Meanwhile, a group of wealthy onlookers watches in awe as a remarkably talented child performs on the violin. After the show, Dr. Laurent reveals that the child is a clone of Antonio Vivaldi, one of many clones created by extracting DNA from historical figures' graves. These clone babies are auctioned off to affluent parents, with the latest auction featuring a clone of Michelangelo. During the auction proceedings, Liz arrives to inform Laurent that they have successfully obtained the shroud. Shortly afterward, the group arrives at Lucifer Villa. Laurent eagerly plans to use the shroud to clone Jesus, while Laura finds herself confined in a glass cell with Brenda and two other women. One of the women is visibly upset and vocal, but Laura's comforting words help soothe her. Laura proposes they work together, but their discussion is interrupted when nurses enter to check their vitals. Meanwhile, Michael returns to the cathedral and discovers other priests reviewing security footage. They are shocked to see Marconi alive, but Michael remains silent and asks about the protectors of the shroud. The priests explain that Cardinal Vincini was responsible, but had become unstable, speaking of demonic entities and secretive cults, which many dismissed as dementia. Michael is troubled by their disbelief in biblical teachings and insists on knowing Vincini's current whereabouts. He learns that Vincini now lives as a recluse in an asylum. Michael takes the security footage, confirms Laura's credentials with her pass, and secures a promise of secrecy from the priests. Later, Michael borrows a jacket and Marconi's car, finding medication in the glove box to help manage the strain of his angelic powers. Unbeknownst to him, a raven follows his movements. Meanwhile, at the villa, scientists labor to extract Jesus' DNA from the Shroud. Michael arrives at the asylum and encounters Vincini, who is armed and fearful. However, the moment Vincini makes contact with Michael, he senses something extraordinary about him and quickly believes Michael when he reveals himself as an angel. Vincini, aware of Liz's plans, directs Michael's attention to the villa constructed over the hellhole, explaining that this asylum was built as a lookout. According to scriptures, Lucifer is prophesied to return, accompanied by two ancient beasts, the first being the woman, clearly referring to Liz, and the second, the beast of the ground. Over the years, followers of Lucifer have offered children for him to possess, but human bodies proved too fragile for his needs. This is why they stole the Shroud, to clone Jesus, whose body they believe is robust enough for Lucifer to inhabit. Michael is deeply troubled by this revelation and vows to thwart their plans. Vincini then drives Michael to the base of the mountain where the villa is located. Michael's presence in the area causes his sword to resonate, allowing Lucifer to exert force on the chain binding him, inching closer to liberation. Meanwhile, inside the villa, the women discuss their situation and personal histories. Laura reveals she has experienced the loss of both her husband and child. Laurent conducts tests and discovers Laura is a perfect genetic match, prompting Liz to urge him to accelerate the cloning process. The nurses returned to the cell to escort the women, but they resisted, grappling with their chains. More nurses rushed in and subdued them, leading Brenda and Laura forcefully to the operating room. There, doctors implanted eggs fertilized with Jesus' DNA into their uteruses. Liz arrived, introducing herself as an angel of the Lord. She confided in Laura, revealing she had noticed her potential from the sketches of Lucifer she had seen in the cathedral, finding them deeply inspiring. Meanwhile, Vincini guided Michael to a concealed cave entrance that led directly to the villa. Before parting ways, Vincini noticed and shot the raven that had been following them, then handed his weapon to Michael, who proceeded into the cave without delay. Shortly after, Laura and Brenda, dressed as brides, were presented to a congregation of Lucifer's followers and bound to a pillar. The beast of the ground took them away, placing them in a large bird cage that descended into the well guarding the gateway to hell. Suddenly, numerous demons materialized, overpowering the women as Lucifer transformed into a pure essence and entered Brenda through her mouth. Brenda resisted momentarily against the demonic force, but eventually succumbed and died. Lucifer then exited her and possessed Laura, who endured the possession without resistance. Laura, now appearing bewildered, was presented by Liz as the chosen one and taken to a new transparent cell furnished with a bed and vital signs monitor. When Laura asked about the entity within her, Liz cryptically described it as a superior Jesus. Meanwhile, Michael found an exit in the cave and blasted it open to enter the villa. Guards quickly spotted him, and when his attempt to draw his weapon failed, he suffered a gunshot wound to the shoulder. He swiftly incapacitated the guards with precise strikes, then appropriated a uniform and passed to blend in seamlessly. Michael accessed the laboratory and secured the Shroud, swiftly scanning security footage to pinpoint Laura's location. Just then, Laurent entered the lab, but Michael forcefully pushed him against a table, demanding answers. Laurent cryptically claimed his actions were for a new beginning. Unconvinced, Michael released gas from nearby canisters and ignited a flare, causing an explosion that created a barrier of fire against approaching guards. The facility's alarms blared, prompting Laura to plead with a nurse for release, but her pleas went unanswered. Suddenly, Michael burst in and subdued the nurse, prompting Laura to embrace him, mistaking him for Marconi. However, Lucifer's telepathic taunts distracted Michael, causing Laura to doubt his intentions and fear he might be an adversary. In a panic, Laura fled, but Michael swiftly caught up and ushered her into a safe room before guards could spot her. Laura reacted by seizing Michael's gun and aiming it at him, but he reassured her of his loyalty while tending to his gunshot wound. Laura then revealed the procedures performed on her, prompting Michael to resolve to get her to safety. Meanwhile, Liz noticed their departure and dispatched her minions to pursue them. In a tense moment, she fatally shot one of her own guards, who nearly harmed Laura, insisting that Laura must remain unharmed. As Michael and Laura attempted to navigate back through the cave tunnel, the rapid growth of the embryo caused Laura considerable discomfort. Their slow progress allowed the beast to catch up, sparking a brutal battle with Michael. Initially holding his ground, Michael's human form began to weaken as the fight wore on, ultimately succumbing to the beast's strength. Liz and her henchmen arrived just in time to seize Laura once more. Laura warned them not to harm Michael, threatening the unborn child's safety if they did. Coldly dismissing Laura's warning, Liz revealed Michael was already dead, focusing now on eliminating the angel. Laura was forcefully returned to her cell and restrained on a bed, while Michael was chained near the well. Summoning his remaining strength, Michael shattered his chains and escaped, though the exertion left him gravely weakened. Dragging himself onward, Michael reached the well and descended just as the beast nearly caught him. Upon landing in hell, he immediately faced a demon attack, which he managed to fend off. Searching for his sword at the rock, he found it missing. More demons arrived and restrained Michael using Lucifer's sword, mirroring the fate he had once imposed on Lucifer. Meanwhile, the baby inside Laura grew at an unnaturally rapid pace. Liz tried to console Laura, suggesting the baby could replace her lost child. But Laura refused to accept this notion. During an ultrasound, Laura was horrified to see the baby seemingly crawl out and roar at her, only to wake up and realize it had all been a nightmare. Liz was by her side, probing if Lucifer had communicated with her. Laura remained silent, prompting Liz to recount Lucifer's battle against God, but Laura showed no interest, earning a slap from Liz. Liz assured Laura she would be released after giving birth but demanded respect in the meantime. Soon after, a group of children discovered Michael chained to the rock. These were failed sacrifices who had banded together to survive the harsh conditions of hell. Michael extended an offer to the children: find his sword and he would help them return home. However, they hesitated, wary of angels due to Lucifer's deceitful nature. Before they could decide, demons interrupted, causing chaos, as some children were captured, while others scattered. Michael could only watch in frustration, feeling helpless. Meanwhile, in her cell, Laura endured a disturbing visitation from Lucifer's essence. It entered her mind through her ear, offering a tempting deal. If she embraced him, he would help her avenge her family's murderer and eliminate Liz, whom Laura deeply despised. Compelled by the offer, Laura consented, lying on the bed as she envisioned nurturing the child, with Lucifer's essence merging with the unborn baby. Witnessing this transformation, Liz grew increasingly concerned about Laura's newfound strength. During a routine check by a nurse, Laura, now empowered by Lucifer, extinguished the lights and fatally attacked the nurse. She then encountered another nurse whom she brutally assaulted until he succumbed. After the violent episode, Laura was horrified by her actions under Lucifer's influence and resolved to end the baby's life to prevent further chaos. Lucifer pleaded with her, calling her mother affectionately, but Laura resisted. Desperate, Laura locked herself in a janitorial closet, with guards in pursuit. Inside, she grabbed a bottle of chlorine, struggling against Lucifer's dominance to ingest it. Overcome by pain and vomiting, Laura was discovered by Liz, who burst in, furious about the harm to the baby. As Liz tried to leave for medical aid, Laura, now controlled by Lucifer, used her powers to seal the door and retaliated by vomiting on Liz. Now fully in control of Laura's body, Lucifer punished Liz for her failures. Liz, regretting not being the one pregnant with the child, begged for a role in Lucifer's plans. Unmoved, Lucifer decreed that after the birth, no evidence of these events should remain, hinting at a deadly end for all involved. Lucifer grew increasingly worried about the bond forming between Laura and the unborn child, contemplating the need to eliminate her after the birth. In the midst of this, Laurent arrived seeking Lucifer's help to counteract the effects of chlorine exposure. Their confrontation turned violent as Lucifer struck Laurent and demanded assistance. Soon after, Laura's body was placed in a healing pod for recovery. While Laura recuperated, Lucifer's essence exited and briefly possessed a demon in hell. He used this opportunity to taunt Michael, highlighting what seemed like his failure. Hidden in the shadows, the children witnessed this exchange, reinforcing their belief in Michael's benevolence. After Lucifer departed, Michael gained a deeper understanding of God's intentions behind these events, inspiring the children to join forces with him. However, they lacked the strength to remove the demonic sword binding Michael, prompting them to search for his original sword instead. They found the sword buried under debris, but as they prepared to return it to Michael, a group of demons approached, offering freedom to the children as well. After a moment's hesitation, recalling the truths they had witnessed, the children chose to trust Michael and handed him the sword. Empowered once more, Michael briefly reverted to his full angelic form and defeated the demons. He reassured the children of his imminent return before leaving Hell in Marconi's body to retrieve the Shroud and return to the main facility. Upon his arrival, Michael overpowered a guard, seized a weapon, and hurried to check on Laura. To his dismay, he encountered Lucifer's voice speaking through her. Desperate to help her, he attempted to move the healing pod to another room. A nurse noticed his actions, but Michael quickly locked the door, opened the pod, and tried to reason with Laura, explaining that the baby was not what she believed. However, Lucifer, manifesting immense power, repelled him with a thunderous roar. As Lucifer controlled Laura, she stood over Michael, announcing her water had broken. She released the fluid, which scalded Michael's skin. Trying to flee, Michael was seized by Lucifer, who forced him onto Laura's lap, demanding worship. When Michael resisted, Lucifer violently thrust Laura's fingers into his neck. Despite the pain, Michael remained defiant, revealing his realization. God was allowing this because if Lucifer inhabited Jesus' sanctified body, Jesus would ultimately dominate and imprison him for eternity. Enraged by this revelation, Lucifer threw a violent tantrum that rendered Michael unconscious. When Liz and the guards arrived, Lucifer, through Laura, commanded them to kill the newborn. Mistaking this directive for Laura's plea, Liz ordered the guards to transport her to the altar above the hell portal. There, Laura gave birth to the child, and Liz swiftly took him away. Left abandoned atop the well, Laura faced the beast who opened the lid, attempting to drop her in before departing with the others. Liz then presented the newborn as the new Messiah to Lucifer's congregation, proclaiming a baptism by blood rather than water. In a horrific twist, the beast slaughtered every follower, medic, and guard present. Laurent, initially relieved to be alive, met his end at the beast's hands after kissing the baby's head. Meanwhile, Michael regained consciousness and smashed a window with his weapon to escape the room. He hurried to the well room, finding Laura clinging to the edge. Helping her up, they pursued Liz and the baby together. As Liz tried to flee with the child in a car, Laura intercepted her, launching a fierce attack before Liz could reach the child. After Michael clarified that the infant was not Lucifer but rather a vessel chosen by God to contain him indefinitely, Laura drove off to find Vincini, while Michael stayed behind to confront the new threat, the open gates of hell through which demons sought escape. Michael rushed to the well and managed to close it temporarily, but the beast confronted him, hurling him aside in an attempt to reopen it. In a decisive move, Michael discovered explosives set by Liz to erase all evidence and promptly detonated them. The resulting blast destroyed the facility and buried the entrance under debris. Later, Vincini escorted Laura and the baby safely to the cathedral, where they returned the shroud. Meanwhile, Michael descended into hell once more to fulfill his promise and rescue the children. Years passed, and Laura and the child, now healthy and flourishing, lived with Vincini in the asylum, protected from external threats. One day, Liz observed them covertly from the woods and attempted to summon Lucifer. However, when Lucifer tried to manifest, the child effortlessly absorbed him back, maintaining the seal within his own body. This ensured that Lucifer remained imprisoned, fulfilling the prophecy and securing peace for the world.